You read the book, or you at least started it. Maybe you finished it, felt fired up for a week, told someone about it, and then went back to exactly the same life. Same job, same account balance, same Sunday night dread about Monday morning. And here's the part that stings. Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out in 1997, 29 years ago, and people are still reading it, still quoting it, and still broke. Not because the book is wrong, because most people read it for inspiration and completely miss the instruction. This video is going to fix that. I've read this book multiple times, and in the second half, I'm going to go deep on the lessons most people skip right over, the specific mindset shifts and practical moves that Kiyosaki actually built his wealth on. Stay for that part. That's where this gets real. Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad to explain one thing: why hardworking, educated, decent people end up financially stuck. Not lazy people, not careless people, hardworking ones. The kind of people who did everything they were told, studied hard, got the degree, got the job, bought the house, and somehow after all of that are still one bad month away from serious trouble. Sound familiar? Because in 2026, that description fits more people than ever. Inflation has eaten into salaries that were already stretched. The housing market has made ownership feel like a fantasy for an entire generation. Interest rates are still punishing anyone carrying debt. And the advice being handed out, work harder, save more, invest in your pension, is the exact same advice Kiyosaki's poor dad gave. And it didn't work then either. His poor dad, his real father, was a highly educated government employee. Smart man, stable income, did everything right by conventional standards. And he died without wealth. His rich dad, his best friend's father, never finished 8th grade, but he understood something that school never teaches. And that gap between a PhD and an 8th grade dropout, with the dropout winning financially, is the entire thesis of the book. Here's the core idea. The education system teaches you how to be an employee. It does not teach you how money works. Not once. You'll spend 16 years in school learning to solve equations, write essays, and memorize historical dates. You will spend exactly 0 of those years learning about assets, liabilities, cash flow, or how to make money without trading your hours for it. And then you graduate, step into the real world, and wonder why the financial part of your life feels impossible. It isn't your fault. You were just never given the tools. And then the system does something clever. It keeps you too busy to notice. You get a job. The job pays just enough to build a lifestyle around it. The lifestyle requires the job to continue. So you need the job more than you realize, more than is comfortable to admit. Kiyosaki calls this the rat race. And in 2026, the cage has just gotten more expensive. Here's the thing about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Everyone who reads it remembers the idea. Assets good, liabilities bad. Work for yourself, not for money. Get out of the rat race. They remember the concept. They don't implement the mechanism. And the book is almost entirely about the mechanism. Let me give you the most important distinction in the entire book. Kiyosaki's definition of an asset is different from what your accountant will tell you. An asset, in this book, puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. That's it. That's the whole definition. Simple and devastating. Because by that definition, your house is not an asset. Your car is not an asset. Your university degree is not an asset. They all take money out, the mortgage payments, the maintenance, the monthly costs. Money leaves your pocket every month because of them. And yet the entire middle-class financial playbook is built around accumulating exactly these things and calling it wealth. That's the trap. That's precisely the trap. And most people read that chapter, nod along, and then go back to optimizing their mortgage. Here's where it gets deep. These are the parts of the book that changed how I think about money entirely, and they're the parts most people skim past because they're less comfortable than the inspirational stuff. The first ignored lesson: the rich don't work for money, not in the way you think. This isn't about being lazy, it's about where your financial energy goes. Poor Dad's advice was always, get a job that pays more. Rich Dad's question was always, what can you build that pays you whether you show up or not? Kiyosaki talks about how most people respond to financial pressure the same way. They work more hours, second jobs, overtime, and the money comes in and the lifestyle expands to match it, and nothing changes. He calls this the pattern of fear and desire. Fear drives you to work. Desire drives you to spend. And you loop. The exit is not working more. The exit is building something outside the loop. In 2026, this looks like a creator who monetizes their knowledge, a developer who builds a tool people subscribe to, someone who buys a rental property instead of upgrading their own home. The form changes. The principle is 28 years old and has not aged a day. The second ignored lesson, mind your own business. This chapter gets misread constantly. People think it means quit your job and start a company. That's not what it means. It means maintain your day job if you need to, but start building your own asset column on the side. Your employer is minding their business. The question Kiyosaki is asking is, when are you going to start minding yours? Your asset column is what you own that produces income without your daily presence. Stocks, real estate, a side business, a content channel, royalties, anything that pays you whether your alarm goes off or not. Most people spend their entire careers building their employer's asset column, working harder so the company grows. Then they retire and realize they built someone else's wealth for 40 years. Kiyosaki isn't angry about this. He just wants you to see it clearly. Start minding your own business, even 1 hour a week, building something that belongs to you. The third ignored lesson, the history of taxes and the power of corporations. This is the chapter people skip entirely because it sounds boring. It is not boring. It is one of the most practically important sections in the book. Here's the idea. Wealthy people use legal structures, primarily corporations, to earn, spend, and then pay taxes on what's left. Employees earn, pay taxes first, then spend what's left. Read that again. The order is completely different, and the difference in wealth accumulation over 30 years is staggering. Kiyosaki is not telling you to do anything illegal. He is telling you that the rules are written differently for people who own things versus people who earn wages. And that if you never learn those rules, you will spend your life playing a game you were never taught. In 2000, this might mean setting up a limited company for your freelance work. It might mean understanding what expenses are deductible when you have a business. The specific implementation changes by country and circumstance. The principle is immovable. The fourth ignored lesson, overcome the main obstacle. Kiyosaki identifies 5 human obstacles to financial success: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. And he is brutally honest about all of them. The one that resonates most is cynicism, because cynics are smart people. They've been burned before. They've watched someone lose money on a bad investment and decided the whole game is rigged, and their cynicism, dressed up as wisdom, keeps them exactly where they are, safely broke. Kiyosaki's line on this is sharp. The primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage fear, not whether they feel it. Everyone feels it. The question is whether it stops you or you act through it. The most important takeaway almost nobody applies. Work to learn, not to earn. Kiyosaki talks about taking jobs specifically for what they teach you, not for the salary. Sales skills, management experience, financial literacy. He deliberately worked in roles that made him dangerous later. In 2026, this means being strategic about which skills you're building. A higher salary at a job that teaches you nothing new is just a more comfortable version of standing still. Ask yourself what the next 2 years of work are going to teach you. If the answer is nothing you don't already know, that's information. Here's the uncomfortable truth about this book. It's not complicated. The ideas aren't hard to understand. The reason 99% of people read it and don't change is that the book requires you to act differently, not just think differently. And acting differently means tolerating discomfort, starting before you're ready, building something small before it feels significant, accepting that the conventional path, the safe path your poor dad recommended, leads to a predictable outcome. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You don't have to make some dramatic gesture. You have to start building your asset column this week. Even something small, even one decision that prioritizes future income over present comfort. Kiyosaki's rich dad said one thing that I think about constantly: the poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. You've heard that before. Now decide what you're going to do with it. If this hit differently than you expected, drop a comment below and tell me which lesson landed hardest for you. And if you want more breakdowns like this, where we go past the surface and actually dig into what these books are telling you to do, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. Now go build something.